my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. It has taken me a little bit to make this video. I've had a bit of an interesting reading week. It has not slowed down, but I haven't finished quite as many books as I thought I would. I've been reading a friend's book, which has taken a lot of time, and so I've been a little caught up, but I have some great books that I'm excited to talk about, so let's just jump into that. So the first book I want to talk about was a recommendation from Kim at Middle of the Book March, so I will link her channel down below, and I'm so glad I picked this up. It was on audio, and I listened to Finding Me by Viola Davis. Now, this book had been on my TBR before, and it ended up going off of it and back on it because I don't really know a ton about Viola Davis. I can't really think of much I've seen her in, and I know that she's a famous actor, but I think that sometimes it's a little off-putting to pick up a celebrity memoir if you don't really know the celebrity. Sometimes it feels like the whole point of a celebrity memoir is you are already a fan, so of course you want to know more about their lives, right? So I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, but this ended up being a very personal, in-depth memoir, and the audio narration was amazing. It was done by the author, and her voice was so beautiful. It dealt with a lot of very difficult topics. She had a very difficult growing up, dealing with some very, very complicated family dynamics. And the way that she works through those is really amazing to see. Did I feel like I would have done the same thing as she would? No, but I could not imagine being in some of those situations. I thought it was amazing to see her ability to process her difficult childhood and what that means for her in the present, and how she is moving forward and making the most out of the opportunities and the disadvantages that she's been given. And so this book was really, really good. Like, this is a 5-star memoir, definitely a book that should have been written regardless of who it was. And so I do recommend this. Even if you don't know a ton about Viola Davis, I think you will really like it. And if you do already like Viola Davis, I think you are in for quite the treat, because the audio narration is so lovely, and the way that she talks about her life and forgiving things and moving forward is really lovely. So this book, excellent, 5 stars. Really do recommend. So this next book was a recommendation from Grace at the channel Books and Cooks, so make sure to check out her channel. She recommended the book Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. Now, this is a little bit of a different book than I would typically pick up. This is a sci-fi book. This is following a soldier who is actually a starship, and the starship's AI, and she has been betrayed and trapped in one fragile human body and is kind of seeking vengeance. That is our setup, and I didn't know what I was getting into at first. I really needed a book to read, and I was so excited to have a book. All my holds have been backed up at the library, and I was just so excited. Okay, this one was available, and I get into it, and at first, I was rather confused. I feel like my main thought through the first half of the book was confusion, and I think that that was a deliberate thing. It was a little vague, and as you go through the book, you piece it together, and finally by the end, I'm like, oh yeah, I got what's going on. And I thought that it was well done, but did I have a great reading experience in the first little bit? No, I spent a little bit too much time just slightly confused about what was going on, but that could have been the attention I was paying to it. I was a little bit distracted. I think I just haven't read a ton of sci-fi recently, and there is a little bit more of that work you have to put in up front to get what is going on. You have to get that background, and sometimes that can be a little confusing or difficult if you aren't paying close enough attention. And so probably my bad, but I did find the beginning a little confusing until it all came together. There were a lot of interesting questions about morality that were played out. When do you go along with an order, and when do you resist? And I thought that those were really interesting to talk about. I thought that the actual aliens were interesting. The planet that the main character is from doesn't really have a concept of gender, and so going to other planets and making the faux pas of misgendering people, and the default that the main character goes with is she for everyone. And I think that it's interesting how that colors my perception of who the characters are. It doesn't necessarily mean that every character in the book is female. It's just the default pronoun that she uses unless there is a reason to switch it up depending on where she is. And so I kind of liked that. It was interesting to challenge some of my biases because all of the generals, all of the people who are involved are referred to as women. And I do think that my perception of what happened was slightly colored by that. And it was very interesting to see that. So I thought it was a very interesting way to approach it. I overall did enjoy my time, but as I said, I don't think I've read quite enough sci-fi lately. So I got to the end and I'm like, I don't know if I want to continue. And it was a lot of investment to get to that point. By the end, it all came together really nice. So it was a pretty good book. I did enjoy it. You just have to, be willing to put in the investment at the beginning, and it did pay off. So overall, I enjoyed it. Now, the amazing Melinda at A Web of Stories recommended the book The Postcard by Anne Beres. This is a translated book following a family who in 2003 received an anonymous postcard. On the postcard are pictures of long gone family members who were killed at Auschwitz and with their names written on the back. Now, is this a threat? Is this a remembrance? Is this a family friend? We don't know. It's an anonymous postcard, and we are following the main character, Anne, who is trying to discover the backstory of the postcard. We get a detailed family portrait of what happened during this time. The first half of the book is very much heavy in the story of these people who were killed, their family, what happened, who escaped, and why. And I thought that that was just really well done. And then you get kind of that searching for who sent this postcard and why. I do love a book that really incorporates this searching for family history to find meaning. I think that this did a really good job at that. This book is excellent. It will make you cry. It is important. It is meaningful. It has everything that you want to read. If you feel like you are done with World War II narratives or Holocaust memoirs, this is different. This really feels very fresh and new, and I thought that it was really well done. The only thing that threw me off a little on this book is just trying to pick out what was solid fact and what was imagined by the author, because this is the author telling their family history. You can tell that she did meticulous research into what happened with her family, but it is also a novel. It is a novelization of these people's lives, which is wonderful because it's bringing them to life in a way that you can't do with just the solid facts, which you can't really do with just the solid facts. She does a beautiful job at giving life to these family members as characters in a novel, and I thought that that was just beautiful and really gave meaning to her conclusions in her life on what it means for her to be Jewish, and I thought that that was really, really amazing. So I think that that's all great, but did I have a little bit of a time while I was reading it thinking, well, do you think she made that part up? Or do you think that actually happened? Yeah, I was doing that. And so if you can just try to not think about that, this book was so good. It was an excellent, excellent read. And I just love those books where it is somebody's personal story and they are searching it out and trying to bring meaning to their present life. I think that that is so powerful. So highly recommend this book. Excellent, excellent. Melinda, thank you so much for recommending it. I highly recommend it. And finally, I just finished reading to my daughter A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline Lango. And this book was a favorite in childhood, and it was fun to revisit it with my daughter. If you aren't familiar with this story, we have Meg, our main character, and her little brother, Charles Wallace. They get whisked off by some mysterious women named Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Which, and Mrs. Who, and they go on a quest to save their father who has been missing. And it is a great way to get your kids interested in sci-fi. Start them out on something that is very light and accessible, but also is sci-fi and takes you to other planets while still having some very human themes. I thought that was really good. I mean, honestly, revisiting it, some of it, I'm like, this is a little heavy-handed. I don't really want to spoil it, but the way it's tied up feels very cliched, even though it's written very earnestly. And my daughter really enjoyed it. Did she enjoy it enough that she was like, I need to read the next one. This was so great. I love this. I don't know if she connected with the characters as much as some of the other books that we've read, but she did enjoy it, and I had a fun time revisiting it. So I'm glad that I picked this one up again. I am gonna start in on another one with my daughter. Hopefully we can find something good. If you have any kids book recommendations, please leave them in the comments down below. What was your favorite book, middle grade kind of book? I need to pick something I'm happy to read aloud. So if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. And that is what I have read the past week or so. If you have any comments on these books or recommendations for what to read next, let me know, and I will see you all on the next one. Thanks.